Hello everyone, my name is Mighty Space Fruit and or Biscuit. You can tell which one I am based on the current atmospheric pressure outside. We have here a general semi-finalist set in the specialist open land division between Raven and this is Breakfast, this undiscernible string of characters. Just recently I casted Happy the Andes game in the closed bracket, and his name in the draft was Breakfast Sucks. So maybe this has something similar, but towards Andy. We will. Well, I don't know if we'll never know. This may be. I don't even know if this is anything discernible. Anyway, we have here Breakfast versus Raven. Getting into the draft here, we have Higher Ground, Rocky Forest. Draft for Breakfast, right? Raven picking Land, Madness, and Ravines, and the admin pick game number 1 is going to be Haboob. Now, I haven't cast a lot of open land games here, so I'm not super familiar with many of these maps. The Rocky Forest I am familiar with, as it is in my Homeland League, sort of some of my opponents there. The has a similar feature as Land Madness does, where you can't build tight walls around your wood lines. There's sort of rocks that prevent you. You have to chop into the wood before you can actually block yourself off. Taking a look at the civs here, we have for Breakfast, we have Dravidians, Goths, Huns, Mayans, Burgundians, Franks, Berbers, Raven picking Hindustanis, Chinese, Byzantines, Slavs, Magyars, Teutons, and Malians, banning out the Georgians, Lithuanians, Mongols, and Breakfast banning Saracens, Gujaras, and the Romans. A lot of sort of solid civs here picked. The Romans is kind of an interesting ban here. Especially, this is a pretty high elo bracket too. This could be maybe a particular thing that Raven enjoys, or maybe just Breakfast particularly despises fighting against the Romans. Not 100% sure there. Looks like fair selection of some nice cavalry civs. We can see, Huns, Burgundians, Franks, Berbers being they're kind of, I guess I would just call them a stable civ. They have nice camels as well. Mainly they're being discounted. Raven does have a nice camel civ in the Hindustanis. And the Byzantines as well, they have discounted camels. So some decent options all around the board. Chinese, of course, always being a pretty good pick in general when you can use their eco advantage, put them to work. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the first game here. Welcome everyone, we're here into game number 1. We have Raven in the yellow with the Byzantines, and we have Breakfast here in the blue with the Dravidians on Haboob. Now this map is pretty ripe for laming. For example, you can see the sheep are extremely close to the enemy. I think yellow is coming forward to grab some as well. Rhino in pretty safe position, I would say, for Breakfast. Rhino's also still pretty safe for yellow as well. But these deer could be picked off pretty easily, and these goats as well. So in this map, we have 2 really big wood lines here on the left and the right. I think typically players will want to go for these instead of these at least the beginning. You might expand to these later on, especially for example like a TC around here. You can't build on this rocky terrain, but you can have a TC near enough. But yeah, it's kind of more preferable to go for this. It's a lot closer to your TC. You can't, I mean, it'll take quite a bit to full wall to your TC, but it's not that bad. And it is a good option to sort of, make a kind of curved wall around the side to your TC line. And for example, Breakfast here can include this gold, for example. And for Raven, actually, this is kind of nice to have this golden stone right here. It's a little forward, so that could be a vulnerability. You have to be cautious about that. Pushing in the deer here. Going for the wood for Breakfast. Now, in Dravidians versus Byzantines here, they both have a bonus to their skirms. Byzantines having cheaper skirms and Dravidians having faster firing ones. As the Dravidians, typically, most often, your opening is skirms or range in general. Could be archers, for example. Of course, if you open range, your opponent could very easily just go for skirms themselves. Especially since they are Byzantines, they are encouraged to do so. They may not get super great use out of the cheaper spears in this sort of setup, though, because, well, the Dravidian stable is somewhat tragic, I would say. But they can definitely get a good use out of the cheaper skirms. Now, you could also, I think it's probably a pretty good idea on this map to go for some kind of drush or man-at-arms rush. You're very close to your opponent, and kind of everything is very exposed. Of course, you know, if you were had a mill here and you had like 5-6 vills, it's kind of hard to get too much damage in with just 2 men-at-arms because they can fight you off. But you can definitely cause some disruption, which I think is a good idea. You see, Raven actually has a nice vill snuggled up here. I would hate having to play with this because it's really annoying to actually try and, you know, task vills to particular trees. Although I do have big trees here, so this isn't probably what the players are actually seeing. Maybe they have one of the disgusting cube mods, or presumably just small trees. Blue looking around here, but is kicked away by yellow's defenses. Mill coming up. I don't see a barracks, so I don't think we're going man-at-arms. Typically, if you're going for the fastest man-at-arms you could, you would skip the mill and get a mining camp up instead. If you push in your deer, you would be able to do that quick enough. But Breakfast hasn't actually pushed in any of the deer just yet. Was maybe trying to see if... Well, probably just keeping an eye on what the opponent is doing. And, you know, maybe trying to reclaim some sheep or something like that. But is pushing in the deer right now. But I think this would be a little too slow if you wanted to go for man-at-arms. And Breakfast doesn't seem interested in doing that anyway. This is a very far house. This seems a little oddly placed to me. But is maybe thinking about a kind of egg-shaped wall around here. Or I'm not entirely sure. Maybe just wanted a house and didn't want to block in the berry gathering there, which makes a lot of sense. But I think a house around here is nice to have as well. You can sort of wall yourself in. Pushing in the second zebra here. And getting in loom. Raven is getting loom now. And, okay, clicking up a little earlier than our opponent. But we still have lots and lots of goats for Raven. And we still have plenty of goats, actually, as well. Now, we'll actually be slightly up faster than our opponent as a Dravidian player here. So it would be nice to use that. But currently we're trying and prevent this zebra from getting pushed in. But I think it's still a little too close. Well, actually, that's a nice position there for Breakfast to take. And I think... Oh, well, that's very unfortunate. I mean, you don't know that you're getting up to feudal first. Dadgum is being dropped. That is rather unfortunate for Breakfast, I would say. Oh, okay, so we do actually have the barracks out. Well, never mind. I know nothing at all. I guess it's perfectly fine here. I mean, you don't actually need to make it as quick because you're so close to your opponent. So I guess dropping the mill is not a big deal here because, you know, you still have the wood. Also, as the Dravidians, when you age up, you get extra wood. So you have a little more to work with than a generic civ would. And we have up to 3 militia here. We will have the gold for man-at-arms, I believe, but I think this militia might be still researching. Ooh, actually, it's kind of perfect. Ah, perfectly in. Okay. And, of course, the range is the typical building to drop right after. And because of the nice Dravidian's wood bonus, we can drop a blacksmith immediately after, which is really great. We're even getting double bit axe. Things are looking good here. However, yellow is dropped in his stable, is going to house wall in these vills. So these man-at-arms aren't going to be able to do too much other than harass the enemy. Could maybe find these vills here. It's actually quite awkward not having your scout. Because you don't have your scout, so you can't scout, you know, for example, that you might have some exposed foragers from your opponent. But this is quite annoying. Now, if we have enough scouts out, though, we can't do too much to contest that. But there is a spear coming forward. And we're getting some nice concave walls around for Breakfast here. And we're going into archers. Very nice transition when you go men-at-arms. Just 2 on gold right now, though. Getting more... No farms just yet. Okay, now we're into a range for Raven. So I don't think this is going to get through. It is forcing your opponent to spend wood, which is nice. It's not ideal. We actually have a 4th man-at-arm here, too. And 2 spears. This could start to become a pretty threatening army, especially if we're going to have fletching on the way pretty soon. And I think, yeah, I think Breakfast saw the range and thought that, you know, 1 archer is good enough here. Let's just go into skirms so we can contest the opponent's skirms. The one good thing... Oh, this is really unfortunate. The scouts got blocked in. Yeah, I'm not sure where the rally point was set. You can try and... Sometimes I find even when you mark it to spawn outside of like where you want them to be, they don't spawn there anyway, so who knows what's going on there. But what I was going to say is the one thing that is nice about having a single archer is they're better at killing vills. Although not without fletching. And a single one is not that good. But it's at least a range unit to try and hit these vills while they're building. Now, the scouts are actually broken out. And I think you can actually fight this. But, well, we actually have a lot of low HP scouts. And the spears are coming in. They're getting a lot of damage in. And things are getting pretty chaotic for Raven. I think we're going to lose at least one vill. Probably two. Yeah, it looks like... Oh, I think this one's maybe just going to escape. Oh, I think it's like just going to get out. Wow. So losing just one vill, there's actually not too bad for Raven. And now we have a good amount of skirms here. No fletching for either player. We have another skirm coming out. Let's see. So the single archer did live. Or this might be a new one, actually. I'm not sure. It doesn't have any kills on it. This actually wasn't that bad for Raven as it could have been. We only lost one vill. We do have a lot of weak ones, but we can pull them towards the TC. And they should be just fine. And now we have a good amount of skirms, up to 5. Our opponent only has 2, but we aren't producing any more skirms. Pretty equal vills. We had a bit of idle TC time from that whole scenario. These forges are going to need to be retasked somewhere. Fletching's coming in now. But we don't have fletching for the Byzantines. We're also not in gold, but actually you can get fletching without that. But I don't think there's a blacksmith anywhere right now. Fletching is in. But we're going to get some more scouts out. So the scouts can do some damage. And there's some nicely placed spears. I'm not sure how much they can really do. Breakfast is shaping up to have a pretty nicely walled in base here. And some house walls dropped around the berries. Seems a little wasteful if you ask me. The berries are going to run out pretty soon. But I guess if you want to farm, it could be okay. But you're also blocking in farming space. So I'm not sure about that. Even getting wheelbarrow. So certainly committing to some feudal age shenanigans here. Which makes a lot of sense on this kind of map. When you're this close to your opponent and you know your opponent is making army. It can be quite dangerous to stop producing army. And try and go for a castle age very quickly. Second range coming up for blue. So the scouts can contest these skirms. So we need to make sure we are careful with our spears. Because of course the skirms do quite well against the spears. But right here we have an advantage for blue. Has fletching, has more skirms. Just has to be careful around those scouts. But we're losing a lot of skirms from Raven. We're up to 3 scouts though. If we're able to pick off this one spear, we could kill everything here that Breakfast has. We're actually housed as Breakfast too. That's very unfortunate. I don't even see a house being built. I think he's focused over here. Ooh, if you could pick up that one... Oh, if you could pick up that one vill. The spear is gone here now. We do have spears back home, but nothing here, so that is quite awkward. So Raven did a good job of picking that off, and now the scouts can get in and do a lot of damage. I mean, I don't know what... I mean, at this point, you just want to try and see if you can get any more damage in with this army, because it's going to die to the scouts. So maybe if you pick up these vills, but they were really close to the TC, so that'd be hard. But now, yeah, with all these scouts, Breakfast needs to be careful, needs to keep the spear around. This is a little opening here. Need to be careful about that. Spear comes in, does... Ooh, not quite kill that scout. I mean, we have 4 scouts, but 2 of them are quite low HP. Dropping the market now. Okay, this spear comes in, does a lot of damage. Oof. Those are some bad losses for Raven. And we're up to 12 army for blue. Now we're producing archers. Because our opponent doesn't really have a skirm mass. And they still don't... Oh, they do have fletching now. Okay, never mind. Now the archers are going to be better at killing vills. But they will, of course, be worse against skirms. But we're up to 7 spears. So the scouts won't even be a big issue for us anymore. As long as we keep them around, that is. Nice pickups on the archer. You want to target down the archer with your skirms, of course. Now the Byzantine skirms are cheaper. But the Dravidian ones fire faster. And we keep losing our skirm mass. And we're only on 1 range and our opponent is on 2. So they're going to keep outproducing us in army counts. We have the market up now for blue. We're going to have a market for yellow. Ooh, and we're clicking up to Castle Age. So that's significantly sooner than blue. We have enough gold to buy some food, but it's not great. However, we're going to find some damage here on the gold miners. I don't think we're going to get any kills because it's just Skirm Spear. But I can at least push them off. This is a pretty big lead in castle time, but breakfast will click up fairly soon. And even with a delay in castle time, you have a pretty big lead in army here. You could go into knights. Knights is a good option against Dravidians in general, I would say. It's not ideal when there's 4 spears, but they are just spears, they're not pikes. And these are some nice hits from Raven to pick off the spears. Okay, so it's going to be about a minute difference to Castle Age. This is good harassment for blue, but we actually have a 6 Vil lead. And we're pretty nicely walled. Could be exposed here, could maybe run in here, but probably not. Don't want to work against this. I'm wondering what Raven's thinking here. Floating around with his scout. Wants to hit those skirms, but has to be careful on those spears. Although they're really low HP, though. So just a few more hits with the skirms and they're dead. Wants to go in, but has to be careful. Loses more skirms. Getting the armor now for breakfast. And the Vil's coming in to finish off those low HP spears, and the army's cleaned up. We're up to Castle Age for yellow. And we are going to Knights and another TC. So this, I always find, I don't play Dravidians that often, but I always find this is kind of the awkward part. Just because we don't have great options versus Knights in general. We can make monks, of course, but if we're behind in castle, that's not great for us. Of course, we can just commit to more skirms if we want. We could commit to crossbows if we had the numbers, which we don't, but we're making more. This is kind of good, actually, for us if our opponent stops the skirm production and just goes into knights. If we have crossbows with bodkin, we could do quite well there. Scout's looking around for some damage, but things are pretty nice and compact for breakfast. And these are pretty low HP, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. And bodkin's coming in. Elite skirm is coming in, which is an interesting choice. I mean, we do have a good bit of skirms. It's kind of a weird mass. Ooh. Okay, I was going to say that would be a good find, but Raven nicely reacts. Garrisons the Vils there. Gonna build a TC here, which is, I guess, is a good spot. It's kind of quite awkward. And we're gonna spend a lot of time building this. And we have knights in our face. Now these are completely unupgraded. So not the best thing in the world. Monk out for Raven. Probably just get the relic. There's not really much to convert. And we have a mangonel. I would call this a forward siege workshop, but it's kind of just in your base. You're just so close to your opponent. So this is kind of yeah, the knights are in. These can do quite a bit of damage. We don't have anything to defend at home. This army could do a lot of damage on this hill, though. See, we don't have a monastery. You could defend with just pike. There's also one downside of this TC. It's so close to your opponent. This mangonel can do a lot of damage, and you can reinforce really easily for yellow. That being said, this army's back here. They did pick off a Vil. Looks like they pushed those Vils off of gold. This is nice for Raven to have this gold. It's not exactly secure because range users can just sit on the hill, but it is at least an option. Now these unupgraded knights are going to die, but they got some damage in, got some disruption, get some hits in. Mangonel is out for Raven. So Mangonel can do a lot of damage to this army. Third TC coming up. Things are very cramped here, I gotta say. Okay, let's see. Do we have a nice shot? Not quite. The knight dies. Ooh, nice split. And with this hill, we could actually probably kill that, but it probably makes more sense to be a little more cautious. Now we have a siege workshop. Dravidians having cheaper siege. I believe it is cheaper wood cost. Still fully unupgraded knights, so it's actually not going to do great against this. Our mangonel is more important here. However, a single mangonel that is unprotected is not that good. It was a nice attack round, but a nice micro away from breakfast. I think this mangonel is just going to die. I mean, the knight's a good distraction, but the Vil dies. This Vil's going to die. This knight can die. And now with this siege, we can siege down this TC. I think there was a bit of a alright shot, but again, now I don't know how, I don't know what breakfast's sort of attention meters like, but this could be an issue for spending too much time trying to deal with this. Because now we have this mangle on our face. We can make a mangle ourselves. Actually, this is a lot of crossbows though. We can actually just kill that as long as we're cautious. But this is still a problem. And Raven's now on stone, thinking about a castle. Could be defensive or offensive. Honestly, they're kind of the same thing on this map. Another unupgraded knight. Can die pretty quickly, but it is a good distraction from the mangonel. Ooh, and finally get a good shot off. Ooh, and yet we lose some more crossbows. However, still a lot of crossbows and nothing to defend this mangonel. Another nice shot, but the mangonel is going to go down. This mangonel did die. We lost a lot of army, though. However, Breakfast still has an army lead here. And Raven kind of has no army at all. We gotta be careful. We don't want to run into that TC. And yeah, now this TC can get sieged. Man, this is all exposed. If we just had something over here, Breakfast could kill everything here. But this could be pretty dangerous, actually, because they could come around the side and castle drop these TCs. Now, we do have the army to protect, but that's depending if Breakfast sees it happen. It's kind of nice, actually, we still have this army. They're not going to do a lot anymore because there's not a lot of them. We're idling these vills. Pretty even on eco, actually. And now the third TC from Breakfast, and that's pretty nice and secure. Another mangonel coming in. Have to be careful around that. Okay, it's a trade. It's probably good for Breakfast because they still have one still besieging the TC. Not really seeing a lot of army out for Raven. If you want to go into more, commit to knights, you probably need to get the armor, especially against crossbows. Another mangonel. Ooh, that was a nice attack round, but a nice dodge from blue. And yeah, I mean, okay, this is a good amount of knights though. But again, they have no upgrades. No bloodlines for Byzantines. These are going to die really quickly. You guys be careful though, we could lose both our mangonels in one shot. Breakfast sees this though, does not react in time. Or it does react in time, but maybe like in the wrong way. This scout is going to one day kill this TC maybe. He's dealt 100 damage to it. But this is a lot of pressure from Breakfast. Still getting some army out. Now we're going to elite skirms, which makes a lot of sense. Man, I wish... If Breakfast did come around here, this would be devastating for Raven. Actually building an outpost, this seems a little unnecessary, but I guess... We probably want to keep an eye out when mangonels show up, so that makes a lot of sense. Another mangonel is going to go down. Okay, there's the castle. So that's a pretty safe position, relatively. Like it's... I mean, you can lose a lot of vills here, but probably not deniable. Well, I say that, but actually you can't get that many vills around the castle building. So maybe it's better than I thought. Vills now coming onto the mangonel. But I guess I was wrong. Maybe if you're going to do that, you can just build here. Well, it doesn't range the TC, yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe going around the back is a better move as well. This mangonel is not going to go down. This TC will go down. Breakfast does have to be careful though. Don't want to let this castle go up. Pulling a lot of wood now. You don't necessarily need to drop a lot of farms though, because you're going on crossbows, but it would be good to use that res for something. Okay, yeah, we did delete the barracks, we can get more vills on here. So Breakfast has to be careful because you really don't want this castle to go up. We don't have enough stone to build our own castle. And we're going to lose a lot of vills here. I'm not sure this is worth. We're now going to fall behind economically a lot. Castle's still going to get denied. But I would still say at this point for Breakfast, just fully wall this castle in. Or kill it. Okay, great. Yeah, bring an army elephant, kill it. It's excellent. Getting Bodkin. But we only have one range for Raven, so... This is a lot of crossbows. Now, a lot of them are quite weak. But you need a lot of... Scorpion's actually a great option here. Not against the elephant, but against the crossbows. Oh, another castle dropped. However, the siege is there. This TC did go down. Things are getting quite hectic here. And the Scorpion can kill a lot, especially with all these really weak crossbows. In a way, Scorpions, I think, are actually significantly better against crossbows than mangonel. Simply because, well, one with ballistics is quite nice. Especially if you're going skirms yourself, you want to go for ballistics anyway. But you don't have to worry about hitting them. Like, they're easier to dodge a mangonel, I feel. Even though a mangonel shot might be more devastating if it hits. Now, this castle is going to go up. We're going to lose a lot for Raven, and we are behind by about 50 vills, which is a really big gap now. We lose a lot, but Breakfast could lose all this army to the castle. Oh, wait. Oh, no, okay, yeah, it does go up. This is a Byzantine castle. And the castle does range a lot of our wood lines, so blue does need to get out of here. Raven back here on this wood line. This wood line's safe. You could go over here. Okay, you could just build a TC over here. That means that's fine too. Hope we see these farms deleted so vills don't go here. Now, this is actually dangerous because... Well, I guess it's not that dangerous. I was going to say this position can be used to build this castle, but I don't know if this castle matters that much. I feel like it does a similar thing to this. I guess technically it does range the TC, which is nice, but... You know, are we going into Cataphracts? That's not really a great option versus what our opponent has. And now we are down a lot of vills. Now we can go up to Imp, and having 2 castles is good for Treb production. So that is a possible threat for Breakfast, but we do have 7 on food and only 52 food for Raven. So that's quite far away. Our vills are being idled. This skirm is going to pick up some damage. Okay, we're dropping some farms now. I wonder if we just see... We can see some more ranges from Breakfast. I'd love to see... Go for some map control in other parts of the map. You have this area kind of locked down. You want to check that your opponent isn't doing anything on the other sides. These Feudal Age spears are going to kill this knight. He's getting unupgraded. And the vills are going to come in for this castle. I don't know if this matters that much, though, to be honest. We're going to lose more vills, which is not great for us. And yeah, we're going up to Imp for Breakfast. And we don't have the stone for a castle because we built a castle here. Luckily we did delete that. Yeah, maybe not the move when there's 2 castles. You could build it over here. You could even build over here. I mean, you do want to be careful because you know your opponent could go up to Imperial Age themselves. It is cheaper for Byzantines. However, for me looking at the res, I don't know when Raven's going to go up. It kind of seems really far away. So Breakfast just has to secure this position. Get the castle up. It's going to take a while to get through these castles. But as long as Breakfast keeps a good map control, I don't think Raven has much of a way to get back in here. Scout fighting off. Breakfast is floating a lot of res. Could convert that into a lot more army. We actually have like no army right now for Breakfast, so I hope we just see some produced, because if we don't have any army going up to Imp, we could still be in trouble. One day Raven will get up to Imperial Age. And there it is. Actually, it was closer than I thought. So, 2-minute difference, but there is 2 castles, and our opponent does get bombard cannons. So they could outproduce us in Trebs, and they can last longer because they're Byzantine castles. So, I think Raven still has a shot here if Breakfast doesn't produce army. Like, we're getting a bunch of upgrades in, but there's no actual units. I don't think repairing this TC is worth anything. It's going to go down anyway, and you're just wasting wood. You can honestly just build another TC over here, or really anywhere else you want. We only have 2 ranges as well. Building a stable. Okay, interesting. Imperial Age is in. Getting chemistry. Getting a Treb out. But I still don't see any army. I hope to see some army from Breakfast. I don't know, maybe he's thinking, would steal Lycat, but you want your castle to make Trebs right now. And this could be a scary moment because Raven can have 2 Byzantine castles, will be up to Imp, can make, well, could make more Trebs in theory if we had the res, which we don't, because we're so behind in vills. But in theory, that could be an issue. However, this Treb is quite nicely protected. Arbalester is coming in, but I still don't see the numbers. I think we're spending a lot of wood still on preparing this TC. I think that is I think it's costing Breakfast quite a lot. Upgrades coming in though for our Arbalester. But again, we only have 2 ranges. I'd love to see some more army. And I mean, Breakfast has kind of been a little bit complacent here. I think you could be more aggressive and kill like way more. But hey man, if you win the game, I guess I can't say anything. They have some skirms out. It's an okay amount of skirms. It would do decently against ARBs, but our opponent can make bombard cannons, for example. We have some units coming in. I actually don't have any army to defend. It's like all over here for blue. So this could get some kills, but you have to get a lot of kills to really even up this gap. And we're even going into light cav for the Dravidians. The unique tech is not in. You could research it here, so this one can keep producing trebs. So this castle is pretty close to dying. This bombard cannon might get sniped by these skirms. Eventually. One day. This bomber cannon can also snipe this treb. I think it... Okay, the GG is called there. So I think, yeah, there was some potential there for... If Raven had the res, could outproduce trebs and kill this and try and raid. But I think was just a little too far behind at this point. Breakfast did a good job of taking some good map control. Got a lot of damage in. Just kind of had more army numbers in general, it seemed like, than Raven did, and was just able to overwhelm. So, nicely played there. And then, you know, turned that advantage into pretty big eco lead. And I think the castles cost Raven quite a lot. I think this was a very ambitious castle. It was kind of awkward because the villas were sort of clumping around. Lost a lot of villas there. Lost more villas, kind of keep trying to build this. I think this castle could have gone up earlier if you just commit to that first. But, of course, it's not as aggressive as you would like it to be. I almost wonder, though, if Raven could have gone around the side. That's maybe even more risky, but maybe could have given you a better advantage if Breakfast wasn't paying attention. Maybe you could pull his attention somewhere, something like that. I'm not sure. Either way, let's go ahead and get into game number 2. Hello, folks. Welcome into game number 2 here. We have in the yellow, Raven with the Malians. In the blue, we have in the Mayans is Breakfast, who picked up Loom immediately, which is normal, actually. I was going to say that's... wonder what that's for. That's because as the Mayans, you start with an extra Vil. So if you want to research Loom immediately, so you have no idle TC time. We're playing on Rocky Forest. So this map, you cannot build immediately around the trees. It's kind of awkward to take those wood clumps. Probably makes more sense to build a lumber camp over here. Kind of some small wood lines for Raven. Bit of a nicer gen, I would say, for Breakfast here. Very forward gold. Kind of forward gold. A little worse for the Malian player here. So, looking at Malians versus Mayans. Mayans, of course, are a great archer civ. They get a discount on their archer units, which is a very nice bonus to have because you want to try and mass them up as quickly as you possibly can. In the late game, they have some great choices when it comes to their eagles, for example. They get a unique tech that makes them significantly better. Now you see Raven building a lumber camp here, which is interesting. I guess this is, I mean, it's going to be slightly more inefficient, I suppose. Presumably because there's a gap in between. I don't know how much that really matters. This is kind of what I was more expecting to see. What Breakfast sees, one of these back wood clumps being lumber camped. But I guess it's probably not a huge difference. I wonder what Raven is thinking with that. Maybe we'll see how that might come into play in the future. But yeah, so Mayans are great civ for archers. Of course, they also have eagles, which are a good unit. Not usually seen too heavily in the feudal age, because I don't think they're a great option. They kind of produce quite slowly. So archers are usually a better choice. I think on a map like this, archers are also just kind of good in general. It's pretty compact. I think it's not too hard to wall, but you can't really full wall, like around the sides here, of course, because of this rocky patch. So you'd probably rather do some short walls towards your TC, around your important res, etc. So we see a wall like this, but this isn't fully walled because, of course, we have this little patch here for Raven. And some sort of walls here for Breakfast, but again, you can't full around the wall around the sides. So this is more like to kind of funnel your opponent's units in a particular direction instead of keeping them out entirely. The Malians are a very nice civ as well. I think they have a pretty wide range of options, I would say. They, of course, have a better gold mining eco. They both sort of produce their miners have they magically, you know, turn a little more gold into what it would normally be, which means there's just sort of more gold for them to work with, and also their gold miners just kind of mine more gold for them. And they also have slightly cheaper buildings. Either their architects are either a little more efficient with using wood, or maybe a little cheaper, depending on how you look at things. Blue pushing in some ibex from the center. Opponent doing the same. You also get higher pierce armor on your barracks units for Raven here as the Malians, which can be a good option for spears, because you usually make spears anyway. But you have no reason to really make spears against Mayans here. Of course, they don't have horses unless they convert a stable. Although I think, yeah, it's the one civ with the Eagles that doesn't have redemption, so can't even make a lot of warriors. So man-at-arms, though, could be a good option because, of course, man-at-arms have a bonus versus Eagles. So they're pretty good versus Eagles, and they're going to be slightly better against archers than a generic civ because they're nicer pierce armor. See Raven up pretty quick. 18 vils up. Blue up with 20 vils instead. Going on to gold. Expecting to see some archers here. Could also be man-at-arms again, which makes sense. Man-at-arms into range is a good choice to go for. And do we see militia again? This is also a pretty close map as well. So you can get in pretty quickly. And you can't fully wall, which can be a big problem as well, because there's no way to stop the militia from coming in here. Again, this just like funnels your opponent, but it doesn't stop them. I almost wonder if it'd be better just to kind of wall around your res and towards your TC than even bothering with this, but I don't know. It could be better just in general, though, if it was just open, because it does make it slightly more predictable. You know a little bit more about where your opponent's going to come from, presumably. Militia coming forward with the Eagle. Can do quite a bit of damage. Dropping the stable for yellow. I'm not sure if scouts... Well, I was going to say scout. I'm not sure if scouts are great. Kind of a more compact base like this, or a map like this. But to be fair, things are always going to be open, so you can't wall against them. And the stable's not going to be denied here, because we have loomed vills. The scouts in. Militia are in. Man-at-arms is 30 seconds away, so you don't want to fight too much with them. But yeah, you can find some nice hits here. But you don't want to lose things. You're also housed for blue. Dropping a range, dropping house. Okay, we'll be just fine. So yeah, another thing is this back lumber. You can wall towards your TC or around it a lot easier than, say, Raven can. But, you know, maybe Raven's just more comfortable playing open. Looking for damage around the berries, but they are walled up pretty safely. Now, you could still knock this down. The scouts can fight back when they come out, but we don't have more than just 2 scouts right now. Maybe thinking about some counter damage here. Dropping the range. Good option to have against man-at-arms. And if your opponent is going to go range themselves, skirms are also a good choice, of course. Getting Town Watch for yellow. I think that's because they got housed. So they'll at least be able to see more, which can be quite good here. Now, Breakfast wants to find some damage, but there's a lot of units for yellow. Might get a single Vil pick. Ooh, pathing is horrible here. The Eagle does get the kill. So we do kill 1 Vil, but that's kind of it. I'm not sure. I mean, that's probably worth it if you look at things here. We have now 3 Vils ahead, 1 being because of the Mayans. We're up to 2 range now. It can be a lot easier to work out of 2 range as Mayans because of the discount. However, up to 4 scouts. 2 of them are kind of low. If we get the spears out, we should be just fine for Breakfast. And Breakfast had some spears quite nicely placed last game. So as long as he has the spears in the right position, he should be okay. But because he can't full wall here, could still be a threat. Just bang on that person's house. Must be quite annoying to live there. Things get quite noisy there. We have a range, haven't produced out of it yet for Raven. Up to 2 range. I'm not producing out of both of them at the same time, but I think that will come shortly. Up to 4 archers. Fletching's about to be in. And yeah, you can't wall around here. We don't see the walls right now. And these scouts might actually find some damage. There's 5 of them. The spears are out of place. They're getting in. They could do some real damage here. We're going to fight back. There are some low ones, which is not great. We do get a Vil pick. Probably want to come out. or get out right now. Okay, we're just gonna commit, which is not bad. So we do kill 2 vills. We lost 2 scouts. It's probably still okay though for Raven. However, archers are coming forward up to 5 with fletching. Only a single skirm for Raven. Nicely placed spear. These are 2 full HP, so they could maybe find some damage. Depends on where Breakfast is looking. However, the archers are coming in. Only 2 skirms without fletching. And with fletching, this scout is not going to really do anything. You can even kill these skirms as well. But some nice micro from Raven. I think we're going to lose 1 for blue. And yeah, now we have to ban this wood line. I feel like this was something of a mistake. You can see how this is a lot more protected for blue. It's easier to wall up, and it's further away from the direction your opponent's going to come from. Now we're up to 7 archers, only 6 right here. Killed the skirm too, which is not great. These scouts are on stand ground. Getting the armor in. Okay, we have the armor and the fletching, so if we mass enough skirms in here, we should be alright. But these archers could get a lot of damage in before the skirms come out. Ooh. Yeah, I don't think you want to pop those out. I think you want to garrison them in here for now. And back home, Breakfast is adding in some farms. Doing quite well for himself. We went to this lumber camp over here, which... I mean, I guess fair enough, because you can't really go to these woodlines right now. You know the archers are lurking around. Can be quite dangerous for you. Now we see Town Watch for blue. So yellow has a pretty good vision. Blue will have even nicer vision here. Lost the archer to the TC. So it's still pretty even though, eco count wise. After all, idle TC time is accounted for. But the worker efficiency is significantly worse for Raven. Simply because all the vills have to walk around, evacuate things, and this gold is forward, and the archers can besiege this. However, we do have skirms out now. Skirms have our upgrades we would want. We have armor, we have fletching. Could do quite nicely here. And they're going to pick off the archers, so... You know, we could still maybe find some damage here, maybe pick up a few farms, but... As these skirms continue to get massed, we don't have too much to fight against this for Breakfast. So just be careful to not overextend. Of course, the skirms are not that threatening when it comes to fighting back home. They can't really kill vills as easily as archers can. But they can still, maybe, backed up with some scouts, for example, could cause some damage. That being said, Breakfast is still being quite active. Again, this game, kind of like last, just seems to have more army out than Raven does. I think part of that is, of course, due to the efficiency. As I say this as I see 4 of these former foragers just sort of standing there. And we lose these archers. We're making more archers. But Breakfast can think about Castle Age fairly soon. We do have the 2 buildings, blacksmith and range. We don't have a market right now to balance things out. And researching wheelbarrow. But Raven actually has quite a few farms. So we'll probably be up to castle before too long. Is maybe thinking about, well, not a counterattack, just keeping an eye on things. So this should kind of hold off anything that Breakfast has. Especially if you're thinking about going to castle, you don't want to lose a lot of your army that you want to upgrade. Do you see Lumbercamp drop from this forward wood line? I don't know if this wood line is really worth going for, to be honest. It kind of feels like it's just safer to go for this, but I guess it's fine here. I mean, you have the army mass here, you can defend things. Just passing moment. But these skirms are, I think, just scouting. They are going to die to this archer mass. And we're up to castle first for blue. Yellow will be behind before too long. We're dropping a second range. And now Breakfast is thinking about the eagle switch, or at least mixing in some sort of eagles. Now, this is quite bold. You're going into castle, you want to upgrade these, unless Breakfast is thinking, my opponent's going to full skirms, I'm just going to fully switch to eagles, and that will do great. That could be an option here. But it wouldn't be too crazy for them to switch to man-at-arms themselves, so you do have to be cautious about that. Housed again for Breakfast. Hopefully we'll add in some more housing in the near future. Not just yet, but one day. And Raven still hasn't clicked up. Clicking up just now. Getting more skirms out. Yeah, we see a barracks. So I'm not sure if breakfast is even going to bother upgrading these. Well, I guess we'll see. It might depend on how many of these they lose, whether or not they get upgraded if breakfast thinks it's worth it. Onto this back gold now for yellow, because this front gold has been besieged repeatedly. You can see how this is much more secure for blue. However, this isn't a full wall. Keep in mind, you can still go around this side if Raven wished to. We're going to be up to Castle Age by about a minute and a half. It's a pretty big lead. The eco has looks like it's evened up, but that's part of that's just a research time. If breakfast makes sure to keep the TC producing, should be just fine. Floating quite a bit of wood. Maybe thinking about dropping some extra TCs. Thinking about a market. Okay, there's a TC on the back there. So it looks like we're going to full eagle switch, which is, you know, not bad versus skirms. However, Raven's thinking about going for a stable. Getting bloodlines, getting the armor. We might need another stable if we want to produce quite a fair bit of those. And we're up to 6 eagles already for breakfast. Okay, there's a second stable. So we're going to have our upgrades in. Our cap are a nice option for the Malians. This is it's a very awkwardly placed market for our TC. He's going to kind of cut into our farming space, but it's not that bad. At least creates a sort of wall. And this is a pretty big army mass for breakfast. Kind of like in the previous game, seeing that breakfast just has a bigger army lead over his opponent. So it's going to be hard for Raven to fight this off. Now the skirms, of course, it'll be just fine against the archers. We're getting Bodkin in. I think that elite skirm was just canceled because you saw the eagles coming in. And another reason why this woodline I think is not really worth. You can't wall it in. So I think it's just safer to go for this back one, and this TC will secure that. But the units are in. We have the armor as well, and these are Eagle Warriors, I believe. Yes, yeah, they are Eagle Warriors. So everything that... We're even getting Bodkin now for breakfast. Yeah, we have a nice eco lead already. Our second TC has already been up as well. But if Raven's patient, you could still clear this up. But it is 30 army to 14 now. These archers come around the back. You can actually, yeah, you can shoot down these cav. They only have the first armor. And you have a lot of archers. So you want the skirms to go on the archers. You don't really want to waste your time with the eagles as the skirms, but... You know, if you get some free shots in, why not? Ooh, some eagles around the side, more eagles coming in. This is good disruption from breakfast. Not really finding a lot of kills per se, but this is good to just sort of disrupt Raven's game plan well. However, we do see housed again. Seems to be a bit of a feature of breakfast gameplay. However, I actually like to see housed here because it means that they are producing lots and lots of units. And you can see here, 30 military now. Getting forging. I think this is the housing community that's being risen to address the housing crisis for the Mayans here. Kind of a poor design, I gotta say. I don't know who designed this, but clearly they didn't have artistic vision in mind. They were just thinking about practicality. Crossbow will be in, but we're gonna lose a bunch of our archers to those skirms. A little awkward for breakfast. You could also, I mean, you can sit here on this woodline and kill these. I don't know if... Let's see, I mean, notice the TC's here. I guess you want to be a little careful you don't get collapsed on. That's fair enough. There's a fair bit of knights now. Still missing the second armor. But, yeah, I mean, you don't want to lose your army here. That could be quite bad for breakfast. Dropping the third TC now. Third TC's coming up for Raven. Not too far behind. Still an eco lead for breakfast, though. No elite skirm in. We haven't produced any more skirms for a while. Okay, but the elite skirm's coming in just now. We have 8 knights. Still missing armor. But Raven's sort of stabilized here. It's not really taking that much damage right now, I would say. That being said, breakfast is pretty much untouched back home, which is a great spot to be in. Especially because it means you don't have to worry about, you know, dealing with garrisoning your vills and microing this army. A knight goes down there. We have a lot of eagles out. We're up to 23 eagles. Now, I don't know how eagles do versus knights. Probably not great. But if you outnumber them, you should do pretty decently for yourself. And we see a forward siege workshop battering ram coming out, recently buffed in the most recent patch. They'll do extra well. Ooh, you don't want to lose some units there. That's not great for breakfast. Now this is kind of, I would say if this was the total engagement, breakfast would probably have the advantage, but Raven has done a good job of pulling the units around, sitting on the TC, getting some shots in, peppering the numbers for breakfast. But with some siege, we can start to knock down a lot of these buildings, and things are going to look worse and worse for Raven here. Even getting the armor for blue. And now we see a pretty big engagement. I think this is going to be a big cleanup for blue. Lost a lot of our crossbow numbers. We're killing kind of everything Raven has. And this is good for us, even if we lose our army, though. Because our eco is fully untouched back home. There is a bunch of vills sitting here waiting for instructions to add new farms, but we're also floating 1,000 wood, but this is still probably good. We did lose a lot of army, but I think Raven lost way more. Because now we're 2 army. So I think breakfast just has to be careful here. You don't want to overextend. You can kill the blacksmith, get a mangle out, you can kill this TC. Just keep massing up army, sit them here. And what can your opponent really do? Now we're adding even a 4th TC. Doing a good job of keeping the TCs producing. We're not really... Well, never mind. I was going to say we're not making a food unit, but what am I talking about? We're making eagles. They are a food unit. I'm out of my mind. By the way, keeping the TCs producing. Yellow is kind of behind in that regard. Has a lot of nice farms here, but now we're losing... We only have 1 stable out. Had to add another one over here. We're still missing the 2nd armor, which is really bad for fighting crossbows. We have some low HP knights. And the mine players maybe thinking about dropping a castle soon. Could be forward, could be defensive, and then go up to imp. Okay, now we see the mana arm switch for Raven. We're actually floating a lot of gold. We could get a big mass of mana arms out. And it could spell trouble for our opponent. And where is... Okay, we do get supplies. So that's nice. So it will do well versus eagles if we have enough. It won't do great versus the crossbows, but at least we have the extra pierce armor as the Malians. So it's not horrible. But if we have enough of them, we could overwhelm our opponent. We see 2 barracks now. Some nice farming eco here. Still getting pressured at the front here, but I think Raven's still doing alright to stabilize here. Make sure we don't lose too much. This Ram is doing a lot of work. Has dealt 6,000 damage so far. It's taken 1 damage. However, again, breakfast completely untouched at home. I wonder if at some point maybe Raven would do well to just... I mean, I guess it's kind of risky. It's kind of risky to send your army away because, of course, you want them to be here to protect yourself. But I wonder if at some point, maybe right now is not a good option because your opponent has way more army. But maybe at some point we could have sent some knights around. They can't full wall, remember. And like especially over here, like this exposed wood line. You know, maybe over here. You do see a forward castle here for breakfast. And we have plenty of army to defend this. Not really any way for Raven to contest this. Ballistics coming in, handcart coming in for blue. We're getting longswords out now, but it might be a little too late because we're gonna have this castle up, and mine player can think about going up to Imperial Age before too long. Okay, we're gonna take this fight. I think this is good for blue and bad for yellow. The longswords will get some good damage in. We'll kill quite a bit of the eagles. We're up to 7. So this is a good fight in the sense that we clear up a lot, but blue still has a much better position here. Going to plumes now, which I think will be really hard for the longswords to deal with. University being dropped by yellow. About to go up to imp soon. We do have bombard cannons and Malians. We don't have a castle, though. Now, this could be a big difference here. If Breakfast doesn't click up to Imp in the near future, the Malian player could get the res, or this sort of things they need to defend this. However, things are still pretty dire. Taking into light cav, I think at some point we need to think about raiding our opponent, though. We don't really have the ability to contest what they have here in the front. But if we're able to get some damage in, we might be able to make something happen. And now we can see here 10 Eagles coming in to raid. Nothing at home for Raven to defend. Only 4 army. And where are those? I mean, they're around. Longswords will eventually clean this up. But not before the Eagles have done lots of damage. Huge migration over here to the side for yellow. Crossbows continue to be annoying. And we're still up to Imp first for blue. Just kind of has a much better eco here, so it's much easier for them to click up. Working on a full wall here at the front, but with Imperial Age in, it's not going to matter too much. We can just sit here with some trebs, kill these TCs, keep some army around to defend. This Ram has done a lot of work, I have to say. Dropping a whole bunch of farms. This is a Khmer cosplay. Keep your house in the middle of the farms so your farmers have somewhere to live and somewhere to garrison. This Ram is finally going to go down, having dealt, let's see here, 12.8 thousand. Wait, that's not right. That's not how you would say that. 12,800 damage done. A lot of damage. And now yellow might be thinking about raiding on the sides, but it's a little late, I would say. Kind of like the previous game where Raven did do some raiding towards the end of the game, but it was a little late. You have to do a lot of damage to make something happen. Now we are in with the plumes. We have skirms to kill these, but they're quite mobile, so they can do a lot of damage. Ooh, nice wall though. Make you walk around, but there's a farm there. You can't wall that up. We're just losing more and more for yellow. We'll be up to Imp, but our opponent will be up to Imp much sooner. Nice quick wall, but you have to wall this in too. Okay, that's good. It's a good corner, but Breakfast can still lose all this and not feel that bad. And can still escape even because of these farms. But some nice walls from yellow. And I think the scrims are going to clean things up here. But again, that's still not even that bad. The Trev is coming out for Breakfast. We're getting in all of the upgrades. We can produce more archers in the near future. Nice. Breakfast spending a lot of time micro-nerding this, though. Just, if we get in our Imperial Age upgrades, too, these skirms are going to die even faster. Actually, we're going to see a cleanup, even for blue, which is kind of crazy. Armor's in, chemistry's in, bracer's in. They will eventually die to these skirms, I guess, if they just sit there. But, again, totally doesn't matter for Breakfast, honestly. We're fully... We've, I would say a little too many vills. This kind of looks like the way I boom up to things, go up to like 177 vills and then lose the game because I don't have enough pop space to make military. However, opponent is in a really rough spot here. Really just doesn't have access to much. Nice to sort of boom here on the sides, but I think we need to get some raiding damage in. Wait a moment. Hold on. As I said that, I just see a pile of bodies for blue. Oh, okay. Never mind. That's not raining damage. I think those are just, yeah, I think that's just culling to make military space. So never mind. Even now, yeah, rating is not even that great for Raven because you'd have to do a lot of damage. Right now, rating is not even that bad because it makes more space for military. Trebs are out. They're going to kill everything that Raven has. Getting into light cav, but I think it's just a little too late. Yeah, and the GG is called. Kind of a similar situation, I would say, to the first game, where it seemed like Breakfast just always had the advantage when it comes to having more military on the board. Was able to get more damage in, even if it wasn't a lot of eco kills at first. We saw You see up to 54 eco kills at the end. But we didn't get that many kills at the beginning. It was more like disrupting our opponent, forcing idle time, moving vills around, and able to get a better castle time. Got them sort of eagles out, and then Raven just kept falling behind economically, and Breakfast just, made sure to not lose the advantage, which is quite well played. I often get a really nice position and then just throw things away. So good job from Breakfast to not do that. This is nice quick walls on this moment here for Raven, but the micro nerding was a little too strong from Blue. I almost wonder if this lumber camp cost Raven quite a bit, because if they had just walled, or if they just dropped a lumber camp on one of the back wood lines, like Breakfast had, maybe it'd be a little safer. Also, maybe if you were able to find at some point raiding around the side, I know it's it's fairly slow. It's kind of a long ways to go, but maybe you could find some counter damage there at some point. But yeah, we can see how we hit Castle Age, and Blue was able to get a military or tech advantage in the military there, and also dropped a TC first, and then didn't sort of take any economic damage back home, so just always kept getting further and further ahead. So let's go ahead and get into game number 3 here. Hello folks, welcome to game number 3. We have Breakfast in the blue here with the Berbers, and we have Raven here in the yellow with Magyars on higher ground. This is match point for Breakfast. They just have to win this game, and they will be on to the grand finals for the general division of the open map. Or the general bracket of the open land division. Sorry, I always forget the full terminology of everything, but figured it out there in the end. So, on this map, we have, of course, the higher ground, where you start, and you have a nice big clump of wood here in the center. We have some kind of sad woodlines around the back, and some neutral herdables. Definitely want to consider picking those up as either player with your starting scout. At some point, you will want to expand. It's a little awkward, though, of course, because ideally, you want to secure this nice wood line here in the center. It has some minerals. But these hills are a very good besieging position. So it can be a little awkward. You could, of course, still drop a TC here, for example, but that can not be great long-term. Doesn't really secure you a lot of res. Secures you some wood and maybe a relic or two, depending where you place it. So really, you want to think about maybe even TCing here. It could depend. I think expanding is really important on this map, but it can be quite dangerous depending. You have to be quite careful about how you place things. So yellow even taking the neutral herdables from Breakfast here. Giving in some nice scouting. Blue's doing a good job of that as well on the other side. Should be okay. Not going to limit out on too many neutral herdables, I don't think. And yellow's going to pick up this lumber gap here. Seems just fine. Long term, this could be an issue of something sitting up here and shooting down your vills. But right now, it seems just fine. Breakfast also going for just the same thing here. Nice boar lure there. Didn't lose any vills. It's the most important thing. Blue looking around here, picks up more herdables. There's quite a few herdables around. Kind of reminds you of Outcrop in that particular way. Okay, there's a nice house for the lumberjacks, of course. They need to have somewhere to rest in between their work. Loom picked up for Breakfast because housing situation is unfortunate. Pretty common feature of Breakfast gameplay, it seems. But hasn't let it stop them from winning the game, so very respectful. And then we see classic getting housed, drop a house into not producing out of our TC. That's a classic move. I like to use that move too as well. It's a good intimidation factor if your opponent watches the replay and then they lose the game anyway. Some nice berries, actually. It's very close to yellow's base, but or yellow's TC, rather. But you probably still want to mill. Long term, you're going to want to mill anyway because you need to drop some farms, and at some point you will want a market So you never want to be in a situation where you forget to drop a mill and you want to mark it. That happens to me all the time on nomad maps. But yellow is nicely avoiding that here. A lot of sheep here. Less sheep for blue, or could have been collected already. But we have more coming in. So Magyars versus Berbers. Magyars are, of course, a great option for scouts. They get the upgrades for their attack immediately. And they also have cheaper scout line. Just sort of easier to mass them up. Can be a pretty big threat, especially on a nice big open map like this. On a woodline like this can be quite dangerous. Things are pretty secure back home here, but I think this is the main attack point that Raven's going to look for. Berbers being something of a stable civ themselves. Of course, they get a discount on their stable units, but that is not until Castle Age. So I think they're sort of generic and feudal. Their vills do move faster, which is a nice bonus to have, both for escaping and for farming eco. I mean, it's a good eco bonus in general, but I think it's mainly for farming especially. We're going to see Raven up quite a bit faster, actually. It's a combination of clicking up faster and I think some idle TC time from blue. But not a huge deal. See the barracks up for yellow, kind of in a similar spot, so it makes a lot of sense. You can create a sort of wall around your vills which are in a threatened position, and you can produce spears out here to defend off of your opponent's scouts, which I assume we'll probably see scouts from both players. That's what I'm guessing. It makes a lot of sense on a big open map like this. And of course, as the Berbers, you want to go into stable anyway, so it makes sense to open with a building that you want to use long term. And of course for the Magyars, I think their main plan is in general scouts and feudal. You can go for a man-at-arms rush with extra attack, but I don't think that's that common, especially probably not at this high on elo. And going from man-at-arms into stable is something of an awkward choice. That being said, if you watch Max's gameplay, he's always going to open range no matter what, so could be something for him to think about going man-at-arms into archers, because he's going to pick archers no matter what he does. Even as Spanish, he probably would pick archers anyway. Still quite a lot of sheep for yellow, though. Seems to have gotten the better of things as far as gathering the neutral herdables. I think they are pretty much all out at this point. Yep, we see a stable from blue. We already have a stable for yellow. Yellow being there a little faster, and of course has the discounted scouts. So, can probably get out more quicker. But pretty nice and compact here for blue. So I'm not sure how much damage we can really find. Oh, we see immediate range as well. Interesting. So we can drop some archers, of course, to, say, sit here, for example. Shoot down some vills. And are also good for killing spears. Which, you know, is what we want to do when we are on full scouts. About to run out of our last sheep. We have horse crawler in, though. So our farms will be extra juiced up, so to speak. Already on to 4 scouts for yellow. 3 scouts here. There is a spear, so we have to be careful about getting caught. But let's see what Raven can do with these. Can maybe find a vill that is out in the open. It's nicely placed spears once again. Yeah, I don't think you can find too much luck because we already have 2 spears here. But that's where the archers will come in. We got 4 scouts versus 4 scouts. The Magyar one should win out because of the extra attack. And we even have a spear here. And this also should win a 1v1 versus another spear because of the forging. Okay, they're going to go in for a low HP vill, but Breakfast reacts quite nicely. Garrisons the vill. Going to go for a hit here. Berber's player does not want to really take that engagement. Dropping another house. This will wall things up nicely here. Scouts coming in. Ooh, maybe you could snipe one of these farms. Or, okay, there's an interesting pathing moment there. Think we... Ooh. Not quite going to lose one. We did get a hit off with our spear, but we lost our forward spear. Our other one's back home. But the archers are coming forward. No fletching, but they can still kill spears. They have the bonus damage already. Dropping some farmers down for blue. We already have... Okay, we're about to finish the sheep for yellow. Going to have to transition to farms in the near future. But this is a nice little pocket for blue. However, the archers could be a threat. But not against the scouts. No fletching on them. Just passing moment, though. As we see a nice pick off from yellow. Just passing moment there. Can maybe pick off the reinforcements. But blue should have seen the archers. Let's see what the reaction is for that. Fletching's coming in now. Ooh, some low HP scouts there. They get picked off by the spear. So these archers can do a lot of work. They can sit here and kill these vills, they can kill these spears. We don't have a range for blue. Maybe he doesn't want to commit to that. You might have to think about a tower here, to be honest. I'm not sure what else you can do. You don't have anything to kill the enemy spears. You don't have anything to kill the archers. Yeah, now we see a bit of a reversal that we've seen in the previous games where Raven now has the army lead here in early feudal. And these vills are going to get picked off. Blue's not doing anything about it right now. These are fletching archers now, so they're a pretty big threat versus the scouts. Single scout comes out. We're going to see some vill fighting. We're going to try wall in the archers, but the archers are just fine. I think you have to just drop a tower at this point. We're going to lose more and more. Maybe Breakfast thinks it's a little too late for that. I don't know. The archer range was a really good switch. And it's doing a lot of damage. Up to 7 eco kills total for Raven. And we still have nothing really to fight against this for the Berber player. And back home, everything is perfectly fine, untouched. Breakfast hasn't been able to find any aggression. We finally cleaned up the archers, but there will be more at some point. And we lost a lot in the process. I think that range transition came in really nicely for Raven with the fletching archers, just clean things up. We're able to take better fights as well with our scouts. Breakfast trying to get in some counter damage, but there already is a spear to ward things off. These are unupgraded scouts. And Breakfast is now 13 vills behind. A lot of idle TC time as well contributes to that. That's really far behind at this point of the game. Already up to 7,000 res collected difference. Some of that will be idle TC time as well. Or idle worker time, sorry, I should say. But you can see how, this, other than a single vill pick, Raven didn't find too much damage here, but found a lot of damage here. That is kind of where things are. We're nicely walled around, and Raven is nicely walled here too. Of course, blue doesn't have a range, so can't produce any archers of the sort. It's just kind of committing to scouts at this point. But, which I guess is okay. It's not great against what yellow has though, because you have nothing to kill the spears. You need quite a bit of scouts to fend off these archers. And we don't have... Okay, we're getting in the armor. Which so they should do okay versus yellow's archers now. But we're getting in a second range. And still no range from blue. This is also nice because the Magyar player is probably thinking about transitioning into cav archers, which are a nice option for the Magyars. They get faster producing cav archers, and long term they get recurve bow, which is a really great uni tech for the nav. I believe it has extra damage and extra range. They have forging armor scouts, which are typically a pretty big threat, and we have 9 of them, but I don't know what they can really do here. Raven is nicely walled up, has the army you'd want really to deal with this. However, let's see, Breaker's going to dive in, he's going to pick up this vill, but these spears are going to get in and get a lot of damage off. And I think this is kind of... We're just going to lose all of our army for blue. And when our opponent clicks up to Castle Age, we are so far behind when it comes to getting up to Castle Age. We're spending more food getting scouts out. And our scouts aren't even getting any damage in. So I don't think this is even really worth it for Breakfast. I think you just have to try and get up to Castle Age. Maybe drop a market. The scouts aren't finding any damage. I guess one nice thing you can say is you're forcing your opponent to make more spears, which is more of a defensive unit. I'm not great at fighting back. But we're really committing to Feudal Age. I think Breakfast is aware that they're really far behind. I want to try and find some damage, but I don't know if the scouts are really it. Maybe scouts if they mix with skirms, for example. But straight scouts here, just not finding anything they want. And we see a forward range, but Raven's going to be up to Castle Age. And we are way behind. We are so far away from getting up to Castle Age ourselves. DC dropped immediately, and the Cav Archers are going to be out. Now, I've seen scouts versus Cav Archers, and it never works out for the scout player. It doesn't matter if they have all of their upgrades in, they just do terribly. Cav Archers are just much stronger. They're a Castle Age unit. They are mobile enough to kite around, and everything is nice and compact for blue. Blue's thinking about dropping a tower here to try and put the aggression on, but, okay, just passing moment. We're making more scouts, but I don't think this is going to work out for breakfast. Now, if we pick off the Cav Archers before it's a mass, that is in theory an option, but we have to be really active, and that tower is denied. Hopefully that's deleted, otherwise we just lost a lot of stone. Okay, we only lost 1 stone. It could be worse. Now, this is good to engage the Cav Archers before there's a huge mass, but... okay, I'll give you credit. Give credit to breakfast. This is good. I mean, it's good to clear away the Cav Archers before there's a huge mass, but the thing is, your opponent has a big eco lead. They can afford to lose a lot of units. They have a second TC up. They're going to outpace you economically. And you lose all these scouts, and it's quite costly to replace them because it delays your Castle Age time more and more. And they could just replace the Cav Archers. And now we see the market dropped, even a 3rd TC now for yellow. Roof to 5 archers. With some knights mixed in, these scouts are going to do extra bad. Unless we just... Well, okay. This is a... I mean, this is probably the best situation breakfast could be in. It does look good, again, to try and prevent yellow from getting damage in. But I still don't think it's going to work out. Because we're 22 vills behind. We're about 2k res difference. And, like I said, you lose all these scouts as blue. It's a lot harder for you to replace it than it is for yellow. Because of the eco lead. Because of the second TC. And we're delaying our Castle Age more and more. We're spending more food into scouts. I guess, at some point, breakfast is just committing, right? Fully committing to Castle Age. At some point, you need to have clicked up to Castle Age earlier, but is maybe just thinking at this point, well, I'm stuck here in Castle Age, so I'm just going to try and make as much army as I can to try and kill what yellow has, but I don't think that's really an option at this point. That being said, is this another good engagement to collapse on the Cav Archers here? But this is kind of just, this is like, when you sort of trade army here, it's always going to benefit the player with more eco. We're up to 17 military now for Raven. And the GG is called there. So yeah, it kind of felt like a reverse of the previous 2 games where Raven just kind of got the military lead, was able to, got a lot of damage in here on the wood line, cleared up everything that Breakfast had. Breakfast just didn't have a range to deal with the archers. Maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe you did have to add a range of your own. I don't think, it seemed like Breakfast really didn't want to, but maybe that's what you had to do. Try and kill the enemy spears, kill the enemy archers, and then Raven got a big eco lead, got the Castle Age, and then was on Cav Archers while your opponent was on Scouts. So, yeah, maybe another option was you just have to go up to Castle Age yourself. The thing is that Raven was nicely walled in here, so the Scouts weren't finding any damage, and we just spent more and more res into our Scouts without finding any damage. And it's another thing to consider, of course. You don't really get your big bonuses, the Berbers, until you're into Castle Age. Your discount on your stables is really what you're going to play for, and you don't have that in Feudal Age. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into game number 4 here. Hello everyone, welcome to game number 4. Oh, I forgot to Raven here in the gray. We cannot have that. Going to keep things consistent and get to yellow. Alright, so we have here Raven with the Chinese in yellow. And we have Breakfast here with the blue in the Goths. Oh, I've mixed them up. In the blue with the Goths, rather. On Land Madness. So this is match point for Breakfast still. lost the previous game. If Raven is able to win this game, it will be match point for both players, and then game 5 will be the deciding game for this set. So, similar to Rocky Forest, we have this rocky terrain, which prevents us from building around our woodlines to defend them. However, you can chop yourself in here, and then you can wall it up. That does make it quite vulnerable to archers, kind of how we saw in the previous map, Higher Ground, where you had the vills that were placed around here in the around the central wood line, and they were nicely walled up, so defended from, say, scouts. But the archers can come in and be a pretty big deal. This is a little more open than that. Things are less cramped, but can be a problem on your wood lines. Especially, for example, here, archers can sit here and be an issue. You wouldn't really want a lumber camp here anyway. And Breakfast is kind of avoiding that situation. But you see it's kind of awkward as well, like putting a lumber camp on the corner. It's not a great wood line, but you have to work with what you have. And what you have is Goths. So, we're going up against the Chinese. And the Chinese, after everything is said and done, when your opponent gets loom and, you are able to reduce your idle TC time as much as possible, you will have 2 vills lead. Now, in this particular case, it's more of it's like maybe a 1.5 vill lead or maybe a little less, because the Goths, whenever they research loom, which seems to have already happened, it's instant. So, you don't really have the research time, so at least there's that for Breakfast. You can kind of nullify that. Goths, of course, are famous for their ability to spam infantry in the late game. Their barracks work faster. They have perfusion in Imperial Age, which makes their barracks work even faster. They get an extra 10 pop. In Feudal Age, in the Dark and Feudal Age, you want to think... Or sorry, I said Feudal Age. I meant they get an extra 10 pop in Imperial Age. That would be insane if they got an extra 10 pop in Feudal Age. Because, think about it. If you're going for full max pop militia, you can turn those into man-at-arms in Feudal Age. You can get 210 pop in Feudal Age. That would be insane. But not really. But, of course, they have a discount on their infantry. So that can be something Breakfast wants to think about. Breakfast seems to be an enjoyer of the man-at-arms rush, which can be extra nice as the Goths, both because you can get out more of your units per se, or you can just kind of pocket the discount and just sort of save more res, kind of like the Mayans, for example. See the vills going for some of these deer here. I hope we see a mill if we're going to go this far out. I wonder where's the scout for? God. Okay, we're pushing in other deer. Now, the hunt lasts longer, so maybe Breakfast is just thinking about... This is, I don't know if it's worth it to suffer all of this walking time if you're not going to drop a second mill, but I guess it is something. We're at least getting more food. And when you're going up against the Chinese, you do need to be quite careful about, usually you want to be some level of aggression, maybe. Try and close the gap with their eco advantage. You see, once again, Raven clicking up first before Blue does. But I don't think it's made a huge difference in most of these games. Second lumber camp would be nice and safe for Yellow. We don't see a second lumber camp. We do see a barracks. Could be a man-at-arms rush. Actually fairly close to your opponent on this particular gen. We don't know that. But at some point we scout that. That can be useful information for us. This lumber camp kind of being exposed, I would say. Some very early walls from Yellow. Now, this is like super exposed to archers. But for now, I guess it's just fine. We want the houses anyway. So, Chinese can open kind of whatever they want. Could be scouts here. I think Raven seems to enjoy the scouts, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that. We actually don't see... because of the second lumber camp, we didn't really rush anything. We don't even have the barracks up to build our second thing. We do see our militia being trained here. So transitioning into a range is typically what you want to do with a man-at-arms rush. And it's not like, Goth has amazing archers, but they're perfectly fine. And if our opponent is building a range of their own, we can make skirms, which can be good. But the barracks is up now for Raven. And the second is going to be a stable, alright? We have the barracks up to build some spears, but yeah, a lot of things are quite open and vulnerable to being attacked on this map. So, scouts could find some good damage. And now blue is coming to scout the opponent's base, wherever that may be. Doesn't even know where that is. I think yellow's doing the same. We'll find the TC soon. Luckily, blue just kind of runs into the stable here, so it's some nice kind of serendipitous for blue here. I think did yellow see... Okay, the scout is brought back, so it doesn't actually know. Doesn't know the militia came from this direction, so can guess pretty easily that that might be where your opponent is based. We don't want to walk into the TC, though. Okay, it's kind of a... Alright, well, I guess it doesn't matter. You see the range dropped. Nothing produced out of there just yet. We saw our opponent open stable, so we don't have to worry about skirms. We can make some archers to deal with this, but we probably want to think about spears first to deal with these scouts. Okay, men-at-arms are going to rush down the lumber camp. It's not going to break through with the repairs, but it is forcing our opponent to waste wood, which is something. It's not a huge deal, though, I would say. Because of some idle TC time and the Chinese bonus, I guess it's still like about a 1-2 lead, though. Some scouts are in. We don't have spears around everywhere we'd want them to be. They're actually coming forward, so the scouts could find some damage. I do see the range drop now, so blue can see that and can think about mixing in some skirms. There's some archers coming in first. Actually gonna go ahead and hit this Buildingville, which is nice from blue. And we're not even garrisoning from, very late garrison from Raven, but get some damage off on the scout. Now we don't see the scouts actually hitting anything. I think, well, Raven still hasn't found the enemy base, but I think is gonna go there soon. So yeah, the archers can come in and they can really clean things up. No fletching though, so it's gonna take a while. The skirm is coming out, but right now there's nothing there. However, the scouts are coming in and they can find some damage. We don't actually have... Actually, never mind. We have a spear here, here. Spear's out. Get some hits in, that's good. And the archers got in. Didn't get any kills, but did force idle time, which is good. Spear does get a kill there. Goth player can pick off the skirms. Now looking for this wood line. Yeah, now Raven has to pull back. This is where archers are really nice on this map. Fletching is now coming in for blue. Can sit on this hill, deny this gold. Now we have to go all the way over here. This is really far away. Skirms will come in though. And they will deal with the archers. We still have man-at-arms around, which can deal with what yellow has. More archers coming in. Yeah, the archer can pick up the spear too. Not that the spear matters that much, but I mean, there's still a scout around, which is annoying. You can find this lumber camp. We're gonna take a fight here. It's uphill for Raven. Not a great fight. No fletching on the skirms yet. But we're diving the TC for blue, which is not ideal. I think we're gonna lose all of these men-at-arms, which is also not great. We have a second range now. We're just full archers, it seems, which will be countered by skirms. But not skirms without fletching. And this has been kind of unfortunate to open with a range here. I think this is kind of where it's a little awkward, where scouts seem like they'd be great. But I think archers are kind of better on this map, if you ask me. Because you want to build the short walls to wall in your lumberjacks. But archers can just sit here and deal with things. And of course, it's easier for us to make spears as the Goths. We open barracks anyway. Well, actually, you have to open barracks regardless, unless you're Khmer. But yeah, not a big deal to have the spears out. So the scouts didn't really find a lot of damage. Now we have a big army lead for blue. It's loading a lot of wood. Hopefully we turn that into farms in the near future. Because our opponent has lots and lots of farms. And we don't have any. Going for this berry patch, but we need some farms out. Getting horse color in, alright. Blacksmith is up. So we'll see fletching in soon. We have 6 skirmers, but we do have 8 archers here for breakfast. And we can find some kills. It's 1 kill already. It's 2. About to be a third, maybe even a fourth. Not quite. I don't know if it's worth diving. Lost some archers there. But it's alright. And Breakfast is going for the long distance hunt here, which I don't know if that's really worth it. But at least it gives your spears something to do, supervising those vills. And I'm going to find some more damage here. Getting the armor now with the skirms. Microing the archers. Another kill for blue. This is some good damage, but... well, I mean, it is some good damage, but I wonder what we're going to transition into. We probably want to refresh this lumber camp maybe over here in the near future. I guess you could drop it here. There's probably still enough to justify that, but getting kind of inefficient. Market is going to come up for yellow. And blue has a decent lead now. Dropping another Khmer house here. And we have a good amount of army, but they're not doing much. But that being said, pull the skirms away. It's a nice pincer from yellow. Pull those skirms away, and now we have another batch of archers. If those were even a little earlier, it would have been even better for us, I think. Because they could hit here while the skirms over here. Kill these vills. I'm trying to see if... Blue hasn't seen this lumber camp, but we might be able to spot that in the near future. You can think about clicking it pretty soon, but yellow's not going to be that far behind. Ooh, yeah, this is a nice hill for yellow. So, I mean, this is good damage still. The only thing is, going into Castle Age, I mean, it's still not that bad to go for crossbows. That's still perfectly fine, I think, for Goths. But long term, it's not your strength, right? You don't get a discount to archers. You get a discount to infantry. So at some point, you'll want to transition to something else. I'm not sure what that something else is going to be just yet. I think, okay, so they are missing, like, Thumb Ring, for example, right? They don't have Arbalest. So long term, the Chinese will have the better option. Of course, I think it's perfectly fine in early castle. A nice little housing community here for blue. Avoid the housing crisis that has happened in the previous games. We actually see click up first from Raven. I think there is no market, and we spent a little too much gold on archers, so we're going to be behind, actually, even with all that damage, which is unfortunate for us. We are clicking up to castle. I think it looks like it's behind a Ville. Okay, so we're in, but it's going to be a minute behind, which is not ideal. I mean, there is a big eco lead, but Raven, I think, will be just fine to stabilize things. Going to go back to the stable. Getting the armor. Should think about bloodlines. Has the res for it. And I almost wonder if we're going to see cav archers. Could be an option. Could also just go knights. Also perfectly fine option if you ask me. I almost wonder if cav archer might be a better option versus Goth. I know they're on like full range right now, so they can go into skirms without too much trouble, but it's not their strength. So it is an option for them, but it's not where they excel, I would say. Floating a lot of res here. Raven could just drop 2 TCs. Might be a little greedy. So we're behind by about a minute for breakfast. And okay, this is second TC. I think this will probably be the third around here, maybe. Yep, this is third TC. Bowsaw coming in, too. So, Breakfast got some good damage in, but we're going to go up against 3 TC Chinese. So, we have to get some damage in here. You could think about 4 TC. Getting the armor in. Maybe for spears. Thinking about dealing with... Well, we already have 8 spears, so... Dealing with stable units. Bloodline is in now, or will be in 40 seconds. A little late on that, but Yellow's keeping an eye on things. Don't really want to deal with this mass. We have skirms, which should do okay, but not against crossbows with Bodkin. Breakfast actually almost has the res for a castle here. Okay, we're getting Bodkin Elite Skirm. Not actually producing more skirms right now. But Blue's going to walk straight into this TC. Okay, spots it. Doesn't actually walk into it. So, onus is still, I think, on Blue to try and pressure this. You know your opponent... Well, you know your opponent's done 2 CCs. So I guess you don't know about the third just yet. But it is something to keep in mind. If your opponent's up to castle first, they can get the extra vills out sooner than you can. Maybe looking for some scouting or counter damage for Raven. Not really much to find. Could go for these vills on stone. Or just walk into this. Maybe kill a crossbow. This is a pretty big, massive crossbow, but we need forged siege if we're going to push the TCs. Archer armor is in for the elite skirms. Wheelbarrows coming in. Okay, there's the second TC, which I don't mind, but you see now the Vil lead is starting to close up again in Raven's favor. This TC is kind of it's a little risky, but this one's perfectly safe. We can farm around this and we'll be just fine. So I don't know about this. I mean, it's fine. You'll want to add it at some point, but I think I'd prefer forward siege first. Try and get some damage in. If you know your opponent is vesting in eco more than you are. Oh, what is this? I know it's a hill, but come on, man. You have the army lead. Drop it on the TC, man. Oh, that's so disappointing. Also, only 3 vills. Seeing handcart. I don't know. This is how you can lose your lead that you gained in the early game for breakfast, because opponents up to castle first. They are Chinese. They can switch into what they want. Skirms is a perfectly fine option for them. These crossbows are not going to be a late game option for us. We want to try and get value with them where we can for the Goths. Long term, we'll have to transition to something else. And now we have elite skirm for yellow, so elite skirm with bodkin and even armor. So yeah, this can't really do anything. If we had forward siege, we can get a scorpion or even mangonel out and deal with these much more easily. Breakfast is probably thinking about Huskarls, which are a good raiding unit, so that is still an option. But now yellow is booming up quite nicely and is kind of untouched at home. This is another iconic breakfast housing community back here. And the castle will be up, but it's rather disappointing if you ask me. But hey, I think we'll see some Huskarls out of it, which will be nice. Ballistics coming in. But yeah, now we're on 2 TC versus 3 TC. So we're going to fall behind. We already are behind by 7 vills. I mean, here's the 3rd TC coming up. Let's see. So we have heavy plow and bow saw. So this could be okay for the Goths. But again, I would love to see these crossbows be used for something. And fighting the skirms is not that something. So you either need forward siege or Huskarls or something else to deal with the skirms. But you also need something to push the TC. You could also raid with Huskarls. I think that's also... They're not bad at tanking TC. Come around the side or something, find some other damage. This is how Raven gets back into the game. Now Raven has a housing crisis. Build some forward houses. These are really cheap. They're not, like, very good because they're right next to an enemy castle. But they are quite cheap. So, you know, many people are allured to them. Okay, this is good. Find some damage around the side. Now, one good thing about this castle is going to ward off yellow's advance here. So that does free him up to get the crossbows over here. Just passing moment there. Can't really, can't fight against the TC, but force some Vil, idle time, kill some Vils. Ooh, now we see a nice forward castle from Raven, though. And, maybe click up the Imp before too long. No bomber cannon for Chinese, but they do have trebs. And this is nice on a hill as well. I think... Well, I actually don't know if the range... If a treb could sit here and bomber that down. Probably wouldn't get hill advantage. Okay, but we do see the Huskarls rating, which is good. Floating 1,000 wood for Goths. Really needs to turn that into farms. Crossbows run into skirms. I mean... It's okay. Ooh, knights are raiding though. This is really bad for the Goth player. Just spears will clear this up eventually, but finding some damage, and we have 3 eco kills now for yellow. And actually, we can't even farm around this TC very well, which is quite awkward. Huskarls are in though, doing damage. Really want to find some use for these crossbows because we can't use them long term. We just don't have enough farms as well for Goth player. Maybe just need to drop a TC out in the open to farm around. You can see yellow has a lot of nice farming space here. And blue is kind of lacking that. Takes the hill. Oh yeah, we see click up to imp for Raven first. I don't know. I don't really favor Goth in this position. We're adding the farms now, but this is kind of dangerous. This is quite exposed. And our opponent's up to imp way before us. Floating 1,000 wood still. They just kind of have a better economic stance here. And they were on farms for way longer than us. Or more farms, I should say. We added these farms quite late. So we're going to be really behind to imp. And when our opponent gets up to imp, these crossbows are not really that much useful. They haven't been that useful anyway with the elite skirm. We didn't really find enough value, I don't think, with these. Even getting thumb ring now. So we're going into Chukanu. So Chukanu are an interesting matchup for the Huskarl. Because they shoot the extra bolts, they should do okay versus the Pierce armor. But the Huskarls do move quite fast, so they might still be able to get in, and they do bonus damage versus archers as well. But I think it depends on upgrades. If we have Imperial upgraded Chinese Chukanu versus Castle Age Huskarl, I think the favor is in the Chinese. Yeah, Breakfast is thinking about trying to get something done with this army, but just clicking up to imp now, 2.5 minutes behind. Ooh, another forward castle is actually great position for Raven because we don't have any army at home for Breakfast. We don't have really any production buildings either. I don't think we have our anarchy in, so we can't produce Huskarls out of our barracks just yet. Yeah, this is actually a really nice position for Raven. And this is great farming eco. Like 50, 60, maybe 70 farmers is great to have. But we're losing some of the castle. And I think a push is going to come in pretty soon from Chinese player. And we can just, you know, send our skirms, deal with this. And this is going to be a way more threatening push here from yellow than this is. Because we can't actually kill the TCs. But for yellow, we can get Trebs out. We can kill this castle. Anarchy's coming in just now. Now we're adding more barracks. Need even more barracks, though. Hal will be in. So the Goth infantry spam is nice against all these knights and stuff. I mean, this is nice damage as well. But I don't know if it's enough. Because we're going to have to pull away pretty soon for Breakfast. Probably need to expand over here on these sides. It's good to be active with this army, but the knights are coming in. Really not any army at home still. We have some pikes. Don't have Halb, though. Because Imperial Age is not in yet. The knights are finding a lot of damage. I mean, this is some good damage here still, but crossbows again becoming less and less useful for the Goths. And this castle will go down before too long. And now we have nice Chukanu mass here. We don't have Bracer in just yet. These knights find a lot of damage. I think we just have to pull everything away from this area. This is way too exposed. Just go and expand over here. You can drop some more farms. You can actually kind of, sort of wall, and maybe add a castle here to defend yourself. But yeah, 2 castles on the hills. This feels kind of like a scenario setting. This is a really good position for Raven. That being said, it's kind of hard to wall on this map, so could find some good damage. Idling a lot of eco, actually. See, the worker efficiency is way down for yellow. This is good. Still find some value for these crossbows, but we still need some infantry in for the Goth player. Need more barracks as well. Still, we're floating 2,000 wood. Bracer's coming in for yellow. This castle will go down. Will not research conscription. Need actually no vills on stone at all. Just now coming in, so we won't have another castle to make perfusion or make trebs. We actually do get bomber cannon as Goths, which is a nice option to have, both for Trebs and versus Chukanu. Don't really want to dive 2 castles. We do have the armor in, but not the best thing ever. I think the game plan here for Breakfast, after we add the houses, maybe you want to try and kind of avoid this death ball, just kind of hold the line, and then just go and keep pushing here in the back, because yellow has nothing to defend things back here. We actually still have an eco lead here just because we did a lot of nice damage. But I think these vills are going to be killed pretty soon. Not having castle is actually really rough for blue right now. We do have the stone now. Getting our attack upgrades in. We still need more barracks. Only 4 barracks. And these are going to die. This one's going to be in the castle range. This is a kind of a good fight, I would say, for blue, but the castle will go up. 4 vills is not going to be enough to build that castle. Don't think that's a good idea. This castle is going to be up way before this is even close to being finished. And I think, I mean, this is great to hold the line, but I think probably blue, what you want to do, take a forward vill, build some barracks here, and just rush into the enemy's eco. And then what are they going to do? They have like a bunch of Huskarls in cube, but we need way more barracks if we're going to do this. Way too many in queue. Because this is wood res that could be more barracks. Could be forward barracks. This is a nice castle with a single vill. See if that is produced. But yeah, now the trebs are coming in. We can dive those with infantry if we want, but now these, I think all of these units are going to be wasted. Just running into the castle is a great position for yellow. That being said, this is still all exposed back home. I think blue needs to take a moment. Need to lose these barracks, to be honest. Save all of that queued up res. Just take everything away from here. Add some more barracks back here. You could even go into bomber cannons to snipe these trebs if you want. As Goths. But yeah, all these vills are exposed. They're going to get picked off. Oh, this castle actually is just not fine at all. Nope, that's going to go down. That's unfortunate. We don't even have a castle now for the Goth player. We're on 1 TC, so we can't replenish the vills the way we'd want to. We even see, interesting, longsword. Going into, do we get champions as Chinese? Interesting, going into champions for Chinese. Well, I guess that would deal nicely with the Halb, and it should even be able to contest the Huskarls as well. Even get all of the infantry upgrades for Chinese. We're going to need our attack upgrades as well. This is a pretty big mass of units for blue, though. They're awkwardly pathing around. We really want to kill the trebs, though. This is a big, massive army, though. 90 army. This is actually pretty nasty, I gotta say. We do have to be careful, though, because we actually see the longswords out, which ideally you'd want to hide that as Raven. You will lose to this, though. The Chinese champions, as far as a value prospect goes, anyway. Only up to 100 vills. 110, 120 would be nicer, I would say. This castle will go down eventually. We're actually missing the last attack upgrade. And Chukunu will shoot this down, do a lot of damage, but I mean, this is good, but I think it'd be even better if we were in the enemy's eco here. I think it's kind of a mistake to try and push this down. We want a two-handed swordsman for yellow, but we really want champion with the attack upgrades. That will shred through the Halb. But let's see, we're up to 6 barracks. It's actually not that many. Ooh, yeah, breakfast is eco setup is kind of looking tragic here. We do have 90 military, but these are going to die really quickly. And I think we need to expand out so we can keep replenishing these numbers. Like, this is a big threat, but only if we can keep producing it as blue here. Don't have champion yet. We actually don't. I don't think we have the gold for it for yellow. And now we have the defensive castle, which is hard for blue because it's going to make it a lot harder to raid. That being said, we actually do get bomber cannon as blue. We're just kind of streaming in units here. I think this is needlessly wasteful. I know that they are cheaper and you can replenish them really quickly, but we don't have infinite res. We're actually, like, we spent all of our res in on our units here. Okay, this is great. Get some raiding damage in. This is really good as well. Get some raiding damage here, but I think Breakfast needs to sort out the eco situation here. It needs to add another TC. Really needs some more vills. This is good damage, though. It's kind of good, actually, just to avoid this whole situation, just go around the side. We'll have to deal with this castle at some point, though, to raid. Halbs are in here, doing a lot of damage. Yeah, now Raven has to spend all of the food on replenishing vills. Down to 64 vills for yellow. Okay. Okay, yeah, great. Forward barracks. Excellent. It's just what we need for breakfast. We have a lot of military out. Only 6 champions. Or not even champions yet, just 200 swordsmen. They do look cooler than champions, but they are worse. We also don't have any of the attack upgrades. We're missing the last armor. Things are kind of falling apart for Raven. Seemed like they had a really good position, but then I think Breakers just had enough eco to spam out a lot of units. Yeah, we did get perfusion, which is even better. But we do need to be careful, because we don't really have what we need to deal with these Chukanu. You could get a bombard cannon for that. Enough Hushcrawls will do it, but I don't think fighting into these castles is really worth anything when we could just go around the side. This castle will be a problem for us, but Raven has very little eco now. I think Blue's now thinking about expanding to the side, which is great. But you need to keep the pressure on. You need to send your military into their eco. You can't let them stabilize things, because they will kind of... I think the Chinese will probably win out here value-wise. Because with champions, fully upgraded champions, if we get there, should be able to deal with the infantry spam quite nicely. And the Chukanu as well behind that. However, and no one has relics here either. Relics would be a big add here. Yeah, we're losing a lot of Huskrawls to the Chukanu. I mean, we're floating a lot of gold, but it's not going to last forever. But this is really good to keep Raven off of these neutral minerals, because Raven has this patch of gold, this patch of stone, does have this patch of gold and this corner stuff here, but it's not infinite. We're coming forward for Raven. Think about dropping another castle. Oh, that's right in the production buildings. That's not good. We want to try and contest this, but I don't think we can with just Halbs here. We're in the eco here. Okay, so I think I'll leave Huskell coming in. Okay, that's good. We're going to need to add some more barracks, though, and some more houses. And I think we really need to make some trebs. Or even rams if you want. We need something to deal with these castles now. Now this is like... This is a real threat. I don't think these matter as much, but this is a real problem. This is a big push that Blue needs to answer to. And now has to take all the vills away. Ideally, you would have expanded it earlier so these would already be set up away from the fray, but doing it now is better late than never. And the infantry are streaming in, but they're all disjointed. The Chukanu are going to get a lot of kills out. We have 130 kills from these Chukanu. Just shredding through everything Blue has. And I still think... I mean, not giving up this stone is not great, but I still think you can give up this ground, to be honest, as Blue. You really want these patches of minerals and keep doing damage here. But the two-handed champions will shred through what Blue has. You can actually also make hand cannoneers as Goths. So that is an option against two-handed champions, but I don't... Or sorry, two-handed swordsmen / champions. But I don't think you actually need to worry about that right now. I think right now you need to worry about this. You need to worry about making sure Raven cannot stabilize. Raven now has the military lead. See, Blue's just kind of losing all of this military. Down to 100 pop. It's about even pop-wise, but you never want to be behind your opponent on pop as a Goths. And then we're going to lose a lot more eco. We need to abandon more. We need to add more farms. There's a lot that needs to be done here. Chukanu can just shred through everything here. The Halbs are not going to cut it. And I don't think Breakfast can really afford to transition into their own champions here. It's probably not even really worth it. You'd rather just go into hand cannoneers. But champions are not going to do well against this massive Chukanu anyway. I don't actually know if chemistry is in for Blue. Trying to collapse on this mass. I think you'd be better off just making a bombard cannon. Like, if you just had a bombard cannon, we could kill these Trebs. And kill this Chukanu. And Raven's stabilizing again. About to even up on eco, which is not really a spot you want to be in as Goths. You want to have an eco lead. Anyone have a pop lead? This trap will go down. We had to lose a lot. We lost our castle for it too. No stone at all. No vills on stone either. We do have this stone here. Yeah, but now these barracks have to reinforce. Ideally, they'd be going into our enemies' TCs. We do have a Treba, though, which will kill this castle. No vills around to repair. Well, never mind. There are 2 vills. Oh, there's quite a few vills, but they will die to this army. And the Chukunu mass is now gone. For yellow. We're getting some more out, but actually we're really low on gold. Securing some more for ourselves. But things are looking rough. But I think the big thing for blue is still make sure your opponent cannot stabilize. You're holding this position now. You can push this back. But you got to keep raiding them. Keep them away from the neutral minerals. Raven found this patch of gold, which is excellent. Either player could think about relics as well. That would be really big in this situation. We have a lot of gold for breakfast. But we don't have a lot on farms. Which is actually what we're lacking here. This is kind of... I mean, the pressure's kind of on both players here, I would say. Raven really needs to make sure to secure gold for themselves. Either to go into full champ or make more Chukunu. Ooh, a good castle here to defend things. And breakfast, I mean, the halbs are okay if you have enough of them. But they're not excellent. And if our opponent has a massive champions... I don't think it matters how many we can make, because we'll just get overrun. We can also start to raid as yellow here. If we have the clarity of mind to think about it. Just losing some random vills here on this gold patch. Blue has all of the attention over here. Is not raiding. I mean, there's not that much to raid, but now we're up to 91 vills. 93 vills for yellow, 94 for blue. We at least have 3 TCs for blue, but we actually have 5 for yellow. So the vills can be replenished way more easily. We need to secure this area. We can start to push back these castles, but again, I don't think this is really that valuable, to be honest. I think it's more valuable to try and do some damage over here. But now we have the castles to defend for yellow. Forging is now in. Getting the gold that is needed to upgrade to fully upgraded champions. Also making some cavalier. No one has relics still. An hour and 18 minutes of idle TC time for Raven. Adding in some more houses now. We'll probably need even more if at some point these get cleaned up. Okay, we have housecarls going into the eco. That's excellent. But now... Yellow's thinking about raiding too. Trev is out. Gonna spend a lot of stone repairing that. Only one Trev's gonna take quite a while. Man, if we just had 1, 2 bomber cannons, we could deal with this way more easily for blue. But yeah, the Huskars are in. They're gonna do a lot of damage. I think blue needs to keep this up. Hold this position. Just send military units in with these forward barracks. This is kind of the one lane that's exposed, is not covered by a castle. Getting the armor in for our swordsman line. It's a lot of halbs though. Huskarls want to collapse on the Chukunu. We're going to lose a lot in the process. And Raven's losing a lot as well. Up to 107 military for the Goth player. Okay. There's just too many numbers here. But the Chukunu can sit behind this castle and just fire things down. That being said, we have lots of Goth army in our base. This raid did really well for Raven there. 6 kills in that single cavalier. But the castle stays up. Only 1 Treb. We would really like to have more than that. We also have the res for it. But these raids are doing a lot of damage. Back down to 50 vills for yellow. Only 96 for blue, but that is a good amount. Is able to keep producing, which is really what you want. These halbs are going to keep getting shot down by the Chukunu. Wow, and the GG is called. 500 halberdiers produced by Breakfast. 243 Huskarls produced by Breakfast as well. And then 51 crossbows. Wow, I really thought that xRavyn was going to pull things back there. It was very back and forth. I felt like the biggest mistake that Breakfast maybe made was not capitalizing on the fact that your opponent was up to castle first, invested in eco. You had the crossbows. You didn't want to use them long term anyway. You didn't want to deal with them long term anyway because they are not a long term prospect for the Goths. Instead, you want to try and get value with them where you can, get some raiding damage in before your opponent had Leap, Skirm, and Bodkin in. But xRavyn did a really good job of booming up, staying defensive. I think Breakfast kind of gave xRavyn a shot there. Didn't build a forward siege or anything. The opponent just got ahead. And yeah, I mean, really great push from xRavyn there. Hold things down, but then Breakfast got in with the raids, just did too much damage there at the end. I think there are many spots where either player was sort of gave the other opponent a shot. I think when you play a game really this long, it's really hard to try and make really good decisions if you ask me. And you can see the eco advantage is so it was pretty there for yellow, and then it dipped again. It was up to imp first, and there was a big lead where it was able to push back blue's base, and then blue got back in, then yellow came back in, and then yeah, it was pretty back and forth. Pretty fun, exciting game there. And well, you could see how the Chinese army here was way superior. 800 kills to 377. 3.0 kill. Oh, that's Ray's destruction ratio. Still very good. And yeah, you'd be really satisfied with this if you're playing Call of Duty. But we had an army of 112 for blue, 723 military units produced in total for Breakfast. So in the end, the Gothspan was just a little too powerful. It seemed like even though we lost so much, we just had enough eco, was able to stabilize things just enough that we were always able to produce enough, get in the enemy base, kill things, hold the line. I think Breakfast could have made the game a lot easier for themselves by maybe making some more trebs, maybe making some bombard cannons, deal with the Chukunu more easily. But hey, in the end, Breakfast is victorious and will proceed into the grand finals for the general bracket in the open land division of the Specialist Cup. So that is all for me, folks, and I will see you all next time.